already been found that he was liable for that, as well as liable for defaming her.
Okay, so it's just about a dollar figure here. Both teams have given their opening arguments. What happens today?
So today, testimony will begin with the plaintiff team going first. E. Jean Carroll herself is expected to take the witness stand, and we are also expecting to hear from Ashley Humphreys, who's an expert witness on damages. She testified on Carroll's behalf in the previous defamation trial. Jurors will also hear from a former editor of Elle magazine, where Carroll was a columnist, and after that, the defense will have the opportunity to put up their witnesses, which could include the testimony of Trump himself, though that's likely to come at a later date. Still, though, this trial is actually expected to move very quickly and be wrapped up by mid-next week.
I guess if it's just about how much money, it can be relatively simple. So what arguments do each side make?
Well, Carroll's team is arguing that as president, Trump used the biggest microphone to attack her and humiliate her by accusing her of lying. During opening statements, they said that supporters of Trump sent Carroll rape and death threats following the comments made by Trump. Yesterday, during the first day, Trump posted also more than 20 messages on social media accusing her of having a fake story, which they made sure to mention during court. Carroll's lawyers did. Trump's lawyers, meanwhile, are prepared to argue that Carroll got what she wanted, which is more fame. So again, this trial is not expected to last very long. The judge said it may only go until Monday, so there could be a decision by the end of the month.
Jimena, thanks for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
NPR's Jimena Bustillo. It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Michelle Martin.
And I'm David First. The Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next. And stay with us for the BBC NewsHour at 9 o'clock. Let's check in with London to see what they're working on. Good morning, BBC.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Tim Franks. On today's NewsHour, a new Iranian missile strike, this time inside Pakistan, and China's population decline. That's BBC NewsHour, coming up at 9 on WNYC.
It's just 18 degrees right now in New York City. Sunny, but yes, very cold. Just getting up to a high of 28 today. Some gusty wind possible as well, so it's going to make it feel even colder. Tonight, mostly clear with a low of 24 degrees. And then tomorrow, increasing clouds. We're expecting a high of 33 degrees tomorrow. This is WNYC.
WNYC supporters include Job, a new dark comedy from playwright Maxwell Friedlich, starring Succession's Peter Friedman and Sidney Lemon. Performances begin January 19th at the Connolly Theater for a limited engagement. Tickets are now on sale at jobtheplay.com.
Bank fees, Apple fees, and shipping fees.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by UiPath. More than 10,000 organizations use the UiPath AI-powered business automation platform to put AI to work. UiPath.com/marketplace. UiPath, the foundation of innovation. And by Charles Schwab. Schwab believes every investor deserves to work with a firm they can count on, with financial consultants ready to serve clients and 24/7 live help.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Benishore, in for David Brancaccio. Many of the nation's biggest banks have now reported their fourth quarter results, and they've been mixed. Goldman Sachs yesterday beat profit estimates. Citigroup last week reported a loss. And JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America posted lower profits. Now, one way banks have tried to boost their bottom lines is through fees, including overdraft fees. But that is changing. Citigroup last year eliminated overdraft fees, and a new Biden administration rule announced this morning would dramatically reduce those fees at other banks, saving consumers at least billions of dollars a year. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is proposing new regulation the agency says closes a loophole which has allowed many banks to charge large fees for overdraft protection. Overdrafts typically occur on debit card transactions and affect about 23 million American households each year. The proposed new rule would reduce the fees banks can charge to only what it costs them to provide overdraft protection services, potentially as little as $3. Alternatively, banks could offer customers an overdraft credit line, which, like any other consumer credit product, would include disclosures of interest rates. That would be a change from current practice at many of the nation's largest banks. CFPB Director Rohit Chopra in a statement said institutions typically charge about $35 for overdrafts, even though the majority of overdraft amounts are less than $26. If that was a typical consumer loan, such as a credit card balance, the annual percentage rate would be 16,000%. I'm Novasavo for Marketplace.
If you, as a company, have an app on Apple's App Store, you got to use Apple's payment system, from which it takes a hefty commission, 30%. Those have been Apple's rules up till now, and people who make apps do not like them. That has been a big part of a long-running legal battle between Apple and Epic Games, the maker of Fortnite. Epic has argued Apple is being monopolistic. David Nieboer is a professor at the University of Toronto.
Apple created a goose that lays billion-dollar eggs, and one could see why they fight tooth and nail to prevent any kind of change.
Yet yesterday, the Supreme Court declined to hear appeals from both Apple and Epic in that legal battle. The long and short of it is that some changes are coming to Apple's App Store. Apple will now allow developers to use other payment systems. Doesn't have to be Apple's. But it isn't making it convenient, and it'll still technically charge a commission. I say technically because Apple also says it might not be able to enforce collection of that commission. These changes, though, apply only to the U.S.
So outside of the U.S. jurisdiction, Canada, other big markets, and Europe, the battle continues unabated. And one would hope, if you're an independent developer, that the larger developers such as Epic use their position of power to fight Apple, because if you're a small developer, you don't want to fight Apple. You're always going to lose.
Epic Games says it will be fighting the new rules in the U.S. too, so the legal battle here is also far from over. All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all down in the 5 to 0.8% range, with Dow futures down 172 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is 4.110%. Retail sales rose 0.6% in December, and they're up 4.8% from December of the previous year. That is higher than many economists expected. It's also higher than inflation. So not only did we spend more, we actually bought more too.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. On the road and at home, customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto with Progressive Insurance. Learn more about Progressive and bundling at Progressive.com. And by C3 Generative AI. Verified traceable answers, secure, hallucination-free, LLM-agnostic, IP liability-free. Learn more at C3.ai.
Ocean shipping rates have gone way up in recent days. That is largely because Yemen's Houthi rebels continue to attack ships in the Red Sea. Marketplace's Samantha Fields reports.
About a third of global shipping typically passes through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea. But now, because of the attacks, more than 90% of ships are avoiding the route. Emily Benson at the Center for Strategic and International Studies says that's one reason shipping containers is getting more expensive.
One of the biggest costs is time from point A to point Z. It can take about 2 weeks longer for goods to transit around Africa, for example.
For ships that are still passing through the Red Sea, insurance has also gotten more expensive because of the attacks. But Benson says, for context, even though shipping rates have more than doubled in recent weeks,
they're still significantly below where we were in 2021, 2022. So this is nothing like what we experienced during COVID-19.
At the height of the pandemic, shipping rates skyrocketed from less than $1,500 for a 40-foot container to more than $20,000 at one point. Now they're averaging around $3,000, though it depends on the route.
It's important to realize that shipping rates go up and down.
Christine McDaniel at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University says companies know this and generally price some amount of volatility in. That's why she says it usually takes a while before increases in shipping rates trickle down to the prices we as consumers pay for things.
It usually affects producer prices first and then consumer prices later, but we're not there yet.
Especially in the U.S. Mukul Krishna at Frost & Sullivan says it's a bit of a different story in Europe.
Right now, Europe is being impacted a lot more than North America, largely because most of Europe's shipping comes through those channels.
But Krishna says most companies he's talking to aren't that concerned about these higher shipping costs, at least not yet.
They are not, as of now, seeing any long-term impact, as of now being the key word over here.
Because he says if the conflict drags on or spreads, that could change. I'm Samantha Fields for Marketplace.
And in New York, I'm Sabri Ben-Achour with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.